Alrighty, we are back. I'm Jenn Lin, and this is Debbie. Say hi, Debbie.
Hey, Debbie.
We
All
are still in March, and we are talking about interview basics. We're still doing our thing on careers. That's our theme for this month. And if you're new to us, our whole theme this year for season 4 is the great escape, doing all of the things to helping you get out on your own so that you can survive on your own.
right. Hey, guys, glad you're back. Today, we're going to be talking about interview basics. These are really, really important because you can get or lose the job within the first minute of your interview. So, thoroughly researching the company and the role are things you need to do before you go for your interview. Practice common questions. For example, tell me about yourself. These are things that an employer is going to ask you. Also, what are your greatest assets and what are things that you're not good at? And this is your time to let them know that, you're working on yourself, which is very important for somebody that wants to hire you for their job. Make sure you master your body language. For example, a firm handshake, eye contact, posture. Sit up straight when you're in an interview. Don't slump in your chair or put your arms on the armrest, cross your legs. Be professional. Listening actively. That's a biggie. Make sure you're actively listening. And if you have questions in between, save them until the end and then they'll go over them. Ask insightful questions about goals and the next steps. When you're done, after it's over and you've left, send a personalized thank you note to show genuine interest and professionalism. Another one is speak clearly and avoid jargon and use STAR method, STAR. That's situation, task, action, and result for behavioral questions. Don't badmouth past employees. Focus on your value, not on anybody else's. And prepare 3 to 4 thoughtful questions about the role, team, or company goals. Plan to arrive early. Be prepared to summarize your experience in about 30 to 60 seconds and describe what you bring to the position. You can say, in my last job, I was responsible for this, this, and this, but you're basically at this point, you're building yourself up. You are selling yourself to the company. So make sure and practice your interview at home in front of a mirror. They don't want to be sitting there and be like, okay, enough, enough. Make sure it's precise and concise and to the point. Now, there's 5 P's of interviewing: preparation, punctuality, politeness, presentation, purpose and proposal, and post interview pursue. When you leave, I would send a little thing, and quite a few jobs I got because of this. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to interview me. And I really appreciate your time. And I was very happy with what I saw. Go in there and just make it sound like I'm really wanting this job. Next, there are 5 C's of interviewing: confidence, character, culture, fit, communication, and either confidence, contribution, calling. Make a strong first impression. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Structure your answers by stating the conclusion first. These emphasize clarity, conciseness, and confidence. Common mistakes in interviewing: not researching the company, arriving late or unprepared, poor nonverbal communication. For example, poor body language, checking your phone, failure to prepare questions to ask the interviewer. All these signal lack of interest or professionalism and can cost you the job. Dress appropriately. Your attire is your first impression. Remember that. You only get one chance to make a good first impression. Some people, and I've seen it in the past, people will show up, their hair might be dirty or hasn't been brushed or Their teeth are dirty. These are things people look for
Thank
because
you.
if you are really conscious about your appearance, then you're going to treat the company the same way. And, that's one of the things that any employer wants. Now, most interviewers spend only about 7 seconds on an individual scan to decide if a resume is worth a closer look. So have a clean, keyword rich, achievement focused document. Use a simple layout, bolded keywords, quantifiable bullet points, and tailor it heavily to the job description, ensuring key skills and accomplishments pop out immediately. The safest weakness to mention, struggling with delegation. So when they say, what are things you'd like to improve about yourself? Struggling with delegation, being self critical or insecure, not taking enough risks, not confident asking questions, procrastination, lack of expertise in a particular skill set, getting caught up in small details, not thinking about the bigger picture. If you don't know an answer to an interview question, say you don't know the answer. For example, that's not my area, but I can tell you. And then go on to say, I'm willing to research this and learn more about it. A company is not going to go, oh, forget it. I'm not saying mention all of these, but these are some of the things you can give them. My big thing when I used to do it is like, I'm a perfectionist and I really have a hard time with delegation because I want everything done right. And I feel I'm the only one that can do it that way. Things like that. Company wants to hear that. It's like, okay, so you're going to strive for, and even if you do delegate, you're going to make sure that they're doing it the right way.
Well,
These are just some of the things that, make a good interview. And these will all be on the podcast. And, there should be lists and you'll be able to follow these, jot them down. The most important thing is make sure you have a good resume. I have gotten resumes that was 6 pages long. And after page 2, I was like, forget it.
yeah,
Because
you
this
don't want
person's
any more
going,
than 2 pages.
this person's
Yeah.
going on and on about all this stuff that I could care less about. If you have a degree, mention your degree, mention maybe what you did in that field, but just keep it precise and concise because you're going to draw them in with usually the first 2 minutes. After that, you'll lose somebody.
Well, what I would add is that you make it all about them and about what you can do for them. I know that, for example, tell me about yourself. They don't want to know about where you were born and where
Right.
you went to grade school and all of that. They want results. What results have you gotten to be able to help the last places that you work for? What are you good
Right.
at getting results for? And a lot of times the employers don't even see it because they're relying on AI now to scan through your resumes, and a lot of times they're weeded out, and
Yes.
keywords are the thing you need to know in part of your research what the keywords they're looking for so that you can make sure to have those in there. And also, I would say you need to follow directions. Sometimes people want you to fill out the application and the resume. They don't want to
Yeah.
see then because you're going to be weeded out. They're not even going to look at it. And then if it says something, if you're filling out a hand application, you might have your resume to give them, and it says do not write below this line.
Don't.
Don't write below the line. You need to follow the instructions because they
Right.
want following instructions is part of vital because that probably part of the test. If you can't follow instructions, then why are they going to want to have anything to do with you for
Exactly.
that? I know one example is when I was teaching, you weren't supposed to write in the margins. And I always tried to give practical examples of how what I'm doing fits into the real world, that they're not doing this stuff for nothing. I said, could be the difference between you getting a job or not.
Hmm.
Because if it says don't write below this line, you write in that margin, you're going to get practice on following instructions and you're going to be the one with the job and not them. It's so competitive. Jobs are so few now compared to the people looking for them. And they're looking for a way to eliminate you from the competition. And these are simple ways that you can be eliminated. So don't be eliminated.
Right.
That's
I
what I would say.
agree. I mean, when you're in an interview or on your resume, you need to be a salesman. You need to sell yourself. Bring up all your best qualities and don't hinder on anything else. If you achieved an award or an accomplishment or an accolade on something you did that's really pertinent to the company you're interviewing with, that's something to mention. But
Oh,
get
absolutely.
rid of the fluff and sell yourself. That's all I can say.
Well, and then what you mentioned posture. And one thing that I was always told growing up, you have your shoulders back, and the military enforced that too.
On the
And,
floor.
and you imagine like, and your chin wants to be up like this, chin matching the floor. And you just imagine like a string pulling your head up, and you'll automatically have the posture. And when you're thinking about it, even when you're walking, it also not only can help you get a job, it can also prevent you as you're walking, prevent you from being a victim of a crime. That criminals pick their victims by how they walk. If people that have their shoulders slouched, looking at their phone, if you have your shoulders back and you're looking around, it automatically says like, yeah, they're going to look for the weakest link. It's very the same with the animals in the wild. They look for the weakest one,
Yes.
and you'll be the first one taken out for selection as well. You're not going to be considered for a job that way.
No.
You want to look your best, have that posture, have that confidence. It's an easy way to keep yourself in the game by just your posture and your appearance and looking like you want to be there.
Always make eye contact with the person that's interviewing you. If you make it to that point where you're face to face, maintain eye contact. That shows that you're invested. So don't be
And
looking around and looking down at the floor.
while you're waiting in the waiting room, have
Mhm.
some points of small talk, have some points of interest of maybe something interesting that's going on in the world, maybe a place that you visited that's very interesting, or an interesting point that would be fun to learn, just like maybe two or three things to be able to note like, oh wow, they're really well cultured. They they're very interesting. Maybe like one interesting thing. That's what I learned from my research in this. You want to have one point of interest that you might be working on, like, oh yeah, I've been working on my coloring project and it's really coming along, or something that's unique and that can be something that they will remember and that they might want to know more about. And
Yeah.
that can stand out. You want to stand out. That's the whole point. You want to be remembered. One thing that got me a job that was kinda cute, and especially if you're in a group interview, they'll do group interviews sometimes where they'll, I think, up to 7 people. I was in a group interview, and they got to the last part of, "What's your short and long-term goals?" And I thought I had nothing to lose, and so I said, "Well, my short-term goal is to get the job, and my long-term goal is to keep it." Very simple. They thought it was so funny. They told me that I was hired because of that.
What are your goals in the company? Do you want to reach the top? Do you hope to someday take these skills and teach others? That's what they want to hear. And that was a perfect answer.
Think of that Janet Jackson song. They're going to be singing to you, "What have you done for me lately?" And
Exactly.
they'll be saying that as long as you're there. You want to be useful because sometimes they have to cut labor and they have to cut costs, and labor is going to be one of the first things that they go to. And if
Right.
you're not indispensable, you're going to be the first one to go. They're going to take out all the weak links, and they're going to want people who want to be there to contribute.
I agree.
One of the things that I always say is, when are you looking to make a decision? When can I get
Right.
started? I've said that before, and I was hired because of that.
Yeah, because that shows you're interested. If you just finish an interview and you walk out of the room, it's like, okay, they didn't even ask, when are you going to hire or whatever. And
Ask
also, you got to find a way that makes that person feel you are the best person for the position they need to fill.
do not ask about how much money is it?
What are the hours?
A nice question to ask is, what does a typical day look like? What would I
Yeah.
be doing from what are my expectations of what would a day look like for me on a typical day? Because then you know kind of like what you're going to be doing and what you can do off of that. You can piggyback that with, oh, I got skills that can definitely fit those needs and get you further. And they're going to remember that.
No employer wants to hear when they say, "Do you have any questions for me?" No, you better figure out simple questions just to ask. Like you said, what does the day look like? When do I start? You can ask them too, like, what does the job consist of? All these things that show an interest in the job. Don't ask about what the pay is. Don't ask about the hours you're going to have to work. Don't ask if you have to work weekends or anything like that. A lot of times, you can, in different ways, let them know that, if you're a mother and raising children, that you'd like to be off on the weekends and that. But my thing when I was looking for a job after my daughter was grown and in school, I used to say, they would say, well, why would we want to hire you? And I would just tell, because I'm not going to call out sick. I'm not going to tell you my kid's sick and I got to leave to go get her. And my family is not going to come in between me and my job. So I'm here. You've got my full commitment. I was like, "Oh, okay."
Absolutely.
Yeah,
The most committed. I said, look at those people out there. I said, look at how they're dressed. I said, I'm here and I'm ready to start now if you need me to. You have one chance to be able to sell yourself like that. You have absolutely nothing to lose. If that's where you know you want to be, ask for it, fight for that job. But also, don't be afraid to walk away if you can see right then and there that that's not going to be for you. They will respect you and they will sometimes have another position for you if they like you. They'll think of another spot for you to be in that they think you
right.
might work well. And that's happened to me before as well. I can say, well, I can see right now the skills that I have aren't going to really match with what you have. My interests don't go in that from what the job description, but the expectations that you have are a little bit out of my range and interest.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh, really? We have another spot here that you might be interested in. So you can still sell you'll either or somebody else, a friend that's looking for that, and they'll plug you in somewhere else if you impress them. It's because they don't and they'll be grateful that you're not wasting their time,
e
but if they like you and you've impressed them with everything else, they will plug you in somewhere else within their company or within one of their friends with somebody that they know that they think that you would be a good fit. So it's not gonna be the end by you saying it's not a good fit because it can rule you out from years of headache with something that you
right.
know that you're not gonna like. Don't be afraid to walk away.
Yeah. It's not the only job offer that you're gonna have, so make sure the one you take is the absolute one that you want, that you wake up every day and say, "I'm so looking forward to my day at work today." And you're
Right.
happy going, and when you come home, you're not sitting and having a drink because the job you
Right.
hate. So, these are things, I tell people, especially I have young grandkids, but the thing is I tell them, "Remember, every day when you wake up and have to go to this job, you want it to be a happy day. You want it to be something you enjoy. Because when you're there for 30 years and you absolutely hate it, you're going to become a bitter person and you're going to gain nothing. And you're never going to move up in the company because how you feel is reflected in the way you act, your body language, everything. They can see somebody who's not a go getter right at the
Well,
start.
you don't
Right.
want to be so miserable. And I've had a couple jobs like that. And you don't have to stay there. Well, you do what you can to get out of that as soon as possible because, it's like, do I want a truck to run over me or do I want to go to work?
Exactly.
And that is just the worst state you can be at. I would rather have something, and that's what I did. I was making less money, but I had to get out of that toxic environment as soon as possible.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
And then when I'm interviewing, even when I've excused myself and not been offered opportunities, maybe in that interview, I left a thank you note Even if
Did.
I walked away, I said, "Thank you for the opportunity to interview me. Even though it didn't work out, I'm grateful that you took the time." It was after that thank you note that they plugged me in somewhere else, to another company that was looking for the skills that I had, and they said, "I have a match for you that you might be
Yeah,
interested in. Call such and such and tell them I sent you." So,
I agree.
not the end of the world, and on that happy note, as you would say, I don't have anything else to add to that.
Take care.
Absolutely, and stay curious, smash that like button, make a comment on your favorite part about this discussion, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Ex